Hey everybody, welcome back. On this week's show, we are sitting down. Now, I said acclaimed art person because I didn't actually know what. How do you self-identify? Are you an illustrator? Are you a concept artist? Are you what do when people say what do you do? How do you describe what you do to people?
That's a good question.
Because I didn't know. That's why I said art person over there.
You know what? All three are right. Mm-hmm. You're an illustrator. You're a concept artist. You're just an artist. Mm-hmm. You're someone who uses their imagination to come up with a visual to help a project. Well, there's no wrong answer.
Well, he's all that and more. It's Jim Martin. Hey, everybody. Hey.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me back.
I started the clapping, and then realized there was nobody else here to clap. But JJ had my back.
I got you.
I got you.
Take it.
Love you.
Hi, everybody. So Reverse Live, we got Jim Martin here. Now, Jim, you are... Let's talk a little bit about you're an artist, you're an illustrator, and you've worked on probably more concept ships for Star Citizen than any other concept artist. Now, we have, at the last count, 115 different ships and vehicles in the Star Citizen pantheon of ships. Now, that includes variants,
right?
And whatnot. But as far as the individual designs, the base models that start things, the Cutlass, the Freelancer, and stuff like that, you have worked on 8 ships for Star Citizen. Before we get to your work on Star Citizen, mm-hmm. let's just tell the folks a little bit about what you do. How'd you get started in the business, and what are some of the things that people might know you from?
You got it. All right, ready?
Yes.
Kid from a small town, Northern California, Redwood Coast. Hey, Eureka, how's it going? Came down to LA and got into Cal State, graduated with an art degree, and was lucky enough to get a job as a PA, production assistant, mm-hmm. in the art department of Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine.
So that was my start. It was just a lucky break, and when you're a young kid, you don't know, what a great break that was. You just go with it.
Now, were you a PA working directly for like Doug Drexler and them, or?
I was working for the production designer, and basically I was the errand boy and supply runner, and run blueprints down to set and make sure everybody has what they needed. And my boss, Herman Zimmerman, he knew I was an artist, and one of the reasons he hired me, that I had an art background, mm-hmm. and he would let me do drawing on the side because he could see that was, my passion. And I had that first year of Deep Space Nine to demonstrate to him that I really wanted to be a production illustrator. Luckily, I didn't have to start that job. I could be in the art department watching what a professional was and what that role really is. And so I didn't have to hit it cold. I had a year to figure it out. Worked on some things, and then the second season, the illustrator left to go on to do movies, mm-hmm. and my boss slotted me in as junior illustrator season 2, and that was my break.
And so what kind of stuff did you get to design for Deep Space Nine?
The first thing I ever designed for the show, I worked with Rick Sternbach, the mm-hmm. illustrator at the time, and we did the runabout design. And I think I did a little bit of medical stuff. And then my first official prop was the Cardassian Field Control Unit. And I have a picture of that in my office to remind me that was like my first actual illustrator mm-hmm. assignment in the entertainment industry. And I noticed that someone has a reproduction that they sell on eBay. Like you can buy that little prop now. Oh, wow. I don't mean to do a plug or anything. I'm just saying.
Are you the one selling it on eBay? No. Is that what this is?
Yeah. Right, and then I went on to do some ship design, and a lot of that job was doing prop design, because it's a space station, and the premise of the show is that an alien culture comes in, visits the station, and they have to have their own stuff. So it's a lot of alien bags, alien weapons, this and that. Yeah.
So as far as the spaceships now, because a lot of our conversation today is going to be focused on spaceships. So before we get to the ships you did for Star Citizen, what were some of the ships that you did for Deep Space Nine?
I did the Defiant, which is that tough little ship. I did I did a couple of Cardassian ships. I did some Bajoran ships. I did Cisco's Solar Sailor. Say that 3 times.
Okay.
And
I got a bone to pick with you about this, the Solar Sailor, by the way. But go ahead and continue.
The Jem'Hadar ship, and some Federation
the bug
stuff.
ship, not the big flag ship.
The Beetle ship.
The Beetle ship.
And the Maquis fighter. Just some odds and ends. It was a really fun time when you really didn't know what was going to come along in the next episode. So all of a sudden you'd be in the art department, and then and Herman would come by and let you know, oh, by the way, we have this coming up, and then you would do your design pass. It would go to the production, and then that would kick off the process. Yeah.
Now, that Bajoran Solar Sailor, because I didn't realize that you had done that. I have a large Star Trek spaceships collection. Eagle Moss creates these little
they do.
Ships, and I've got like 130 of them, whatever. I've got every single one they made. And the Bajoran Solar Sailor had to be shipped to me 4 times. Because
it's a fragile ship.
Because it's a fragile ship, and it was designed to be a fragile ship, to your credit. So I mean,
it was meant to be elegant.
Yes, it was very elegant. But yeah, I had to keep getting that ship to me quite a few times because it kept coming broken. So that ship was my El Guapo for a while in Three Amigos parlance.
You know what's cool about that though is that I worked on the show, but I never had copies of any of that stuff. I just left Deep Space Nine to go off and work on other things, and after all this time to be able to buy a design that you did or worked on and have that in your office, I have those too. Well,
I've got 3 partially broken Bajoran Solar Sailors. I'm sure you could assemble one that might actually work out of them if you want them.
You can buy like a glue gun and just fix
Not me. I'm not arts and crafts.
All right.
Have we ever looked at Jared and said that guy's arts and crafts? All right. So eventually you left Deep Space Nine. You went to work in features.
I did.
I think most closest to my heart, we mentioned them before. You worked on one of the Alien films. You worked on the Matrix, the sequels, but Starship Troopers. I want to talk about Starship Troopers. What did you do for Starship Troopers? So Starship Troopers, like when I left Star Trek, that's definitely a type of universe. It's very, it's has a lot of design rules that are unique to Star Trek. I get hired on Starship Troopers, and they need me to do ships. And I did the Roger Young, the landing ships, the rescue boat, the little escape pod. I was their ship and did set stuff for them, and their gear that they wear. And for me, that being on that show helped me channel my inner Star Wars Battlestar Galactica, which is like a separate universe from designing Star Trek stuff, and I realized like, we can get boxy. Let's get military boxy and chunky, and let's really do it right. And that was a pretty wild ride. Paul Verhoeven was a very energetic director. I've heard that before, yes. Now, a number of our Star Citizen streamers take a lot of their influence from things that you've worked on. We have Detox, who his entire stream is Starship Troopers themed with the immobile infantry, as it were, because he's a streamer who's sitting stationary. Captain Richard is very alien themed, from the Alien movies and stuff like that. So I don't know if we have a Star Trek themed Star Citizen streamer or not, but it's definitely, you see a lot of you've touched a lot of sci-fi touchstones in your career, like that. So now it's It's 2011, 2012 when you get a call from Chris Roberts. Right. So tell me how that happens. I had got hired on to the RoboCop remake. I'm in
Hollywood working on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I get a email from Chris, and he was looking for a concept artist to do some initial ideas for him for a game project he wanted to start up called Star Citizen. I met him for lunch, and he graciously bought me lunch and pitched the idea to me, and he had me at, could you design ships? Would you like to design some ships? I mean, who can say no to that, right? That's like our dream job, is to get to do spaceship design. I did, and
now this is before Star Citizen's been announced to the world. This is before our GDC announcement in 2012. He's asking you to design ships
for an idea.
For an idea.
Yeah.
And what was the first ship he had you working on?
He, I think he was putting together, if I remember this correctly, and it's been a little bit, but I think he was putting together kind of like a demo animation, and he needed the bad guy ship, which would be the Scythe.
The Scythe.
And he needed some concept ideas for that.
And we have some of your early concept designs here. Let's see if we can bring these up and see if my clicker will work. Now, so at this point you started off. You started off as traditional, pen, pencil to paper sketches. Right. We hadn't started concepting in 3D at this point yet.
Right. So for me, like right here, if we stay on this page for a minute, Chris gave me the brief of what he was looking for, and this is my thinking pass, which is basically you need to start putting it on paper, because if you just think about it in your head, it's going to come and it's going to go, and you need to start putting some ideas down. It's about drawing the right and drawing the wrong, but getting it all on a piece of paper. And
we talk about that quite a bit in a lot of our concept work. People will say, show us the early concepts of something, and it's like the concept period is not just about discovering what you do want. It's about discovering what you don't want. Exactly. Because when you start a process like this, I mean, it's like, do you remember the brief on this? Do you remember what Chris said he was looking for?
He pitched me the idea of the aliens that we were fighting, and that he wanted the ship to feel dangerous. And so my first pass was, well, okay, if you're going to do dangerous, then you want it to be kind of sharp. You want it to feel lethal, which in a visual sense means, it's not going to be soft and curved and gentle. It's going to be kind of, spikes and blades and this and that. And my first pass is kind of a little bit of a, let's not do the bat wing. But you have to work through those. So I drew a lot of that, and I remember Chris reacting to it, going, have you thought about maybe doing something asymmetrical? And that was like a very important moment in shifting to asymmetry, doing something a little bit more unique. And we started to work our way to the blade shape, which Chris said, what about, hey, I like this, what if it was kind of like a flying dagger, a flying knife, or a blade? And that really kind of locked in the path. And then we could take it to some tighter ideas, and eventually to get closer to the finish.
Now these aren't in any particular order. This obviously isn't a blade shaped.
Yeah, that would be the lethal disc.
The lethal disc?
Didn't make it. Then we got to this, which also Chris wanted to start working in the idea of armor plating to echo the soldiers inside. And then I went to a scratch model, which is basically just do a model that you can paint on top of, but really start to lock it into a 3D reality, so that it's not just a one-view ship. Hey, that looks good, but what does the underside look like?
Yeah. And this was the very first Vandal anything at this point, because in 20, for the reveal at GDC in 2012, this is the only aggressor that we see. We don't see the Vandal as characters and what. So this ship design is not just let's design a cool ship. but this is the introduction to what will be, one of the principal aggressor races for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. So that's a pretty heavy responsibility.
What was really exciting about it though was when you guys sent me a copy of that first demo, and it comes around from behind the asteroid, and
it's right behind you.
Yeah, and it's the ship, and it's really exciting. That's a reward for an illustrator, is to see your ideas make it all the way to the final. Even though many people touch it after you, and that's how it should be, because you want people to come in and you want them to work it and plus it, and do to it the things that need to get done to make it fit into the game,
So now you've got the scythe. The scythe is used for that original GDC release. Now we're starting the crowdfunding campaign. We started with 5 original ships. We had an Aurora, Constellation, a Hornet, a 300, and a Freelancer. Those were the 5, and of those 5, you were tasked with creating the Freelancer.
That's right.
Let's see what we got as far as these early shows. Hope we got some more side there. What's this? This isn't the Freelancer.
It could have been, but it was a design direction that we decided not to pursue. So I think originally I did a spread, again, of sketch ideas that some tighter, some a little bit looser, to start the process of what could it be. And
so these are the same process. The thumbnails, trying to figure out shape, language.
It's okay to hate a couple of these if you want to, because you're going to do stuff that is a good idea, and you're going to do stuff that's a bad idea, but you got to draw it to know, let's not do that. And then continuing on with more ideas. Is anything landing? Are we still searching? I think that the asymmetry was a starting point that I abandoned. We weren't going to do that. And then I think we started to lock into some ideas that were a little tighter, a little more unibody, and finally I think that's the one that kicked off the design direction.
Yeah, I think there was a vote at one point, right? It was between this one and the one that we had at the beginning there. Again, I think we actually put that up as a vote
to let people decide
at some point, if I remember correctly. Sorry, my memory isn't always.
I think you're right.
As keen, but back when it was Misc Ship 1 and Misc Ship 2, I think it was a choice between this one and this one. And this is the one that the community voted on. So then they vote on this, and then you start exploring that option further.
Yep. And then I met with Chris after kind of mocking up a quick study model to make it feel more real, and let's talk about what's working and what's not working. And I remember meeting him, and then at the time I had moved to another show. So my context for this is, I remember getting the assignment and going, oh yeah, that's when I was working at Universal on another project. And then I came and I jumped over the hill to Hollywood, and we had a meeting to talk about this and to keep the process going. My
memories and for most of my life are tied to similar things. It has to do with theatrical plays and musicals. It's, I did theater for 25 years, so every event in my life that's not theater is still linked to what show was I doing back then. So I can relate to that, absolutely. So we've got some more Freelancer here. So interesting with the 2 big engines in the rear. I don't think I'd seen this one.
Yeah, that was earlier on. And then I remember we needed to make sure that we had a cargo hold that was viable, and that's when we started working the like back ramp door to a cargo hold. This was a alternate telling of
Go ahead.
of the cockpit, which ultimately was not successful.
What do you mean not successful? It's people love struts. Jim. If there's one thing that the entire Star Citizen community can come together on, is that they love cockpit struts. As many physical items to obstruct your view as possible. The more struts you get in there, the more these ships sell. It's just
I think because people want it to look cool on the outside, not when they're actually sitting in there and realizing that they can't see anything when they're flying.
Yeah, well, it's the Millennium Falcon thing. It's the Millennium Falcon had those big cockpit struts, and it inspired an entire generation of spaceship design.
Right.
But they didn't actually have to sit in the cockpit and actually
go, hey, you know what? I got a blind spot here. Yeah. Do you do a Chewbacca impression?
No, I just have allergies.
Okay. You don't want to try right now?
No.
Okay.
Let's see. What else we got here? So we got some more explorations. This is again with the Freelancer with the big engines in the back. Are those the center engines? Or those are just the wingback? Those look like the same one with the center engines.
I think that's the center engine version. Then a retool of the cockpit with a hooded top, and more open glass, which seemed to be getting us on the right track. And then the new cockpit and a little bit of a restyling. And this is the chunky version that I don't think we ever got to. It's got some things on there that I tried out.
We went with the Freelancer Max, which is a variant of the Freelancer that I think took a lot of inspiration from this.
Okay, cool. That's good to hear. That's it. Actual snapshot of it flying in space.
There's a big center engine.
When I do that, you can go, that's not funny.
It's all right. I work with Ben Lesnick, so I'm used to jokes that are funny. All right.
Another interesting thing about working on this project for this amount of time is that I can look back and kind of see my progress as a modeler, a 3D modeler, in looking at some of this earlier stuff versus like my later stuff, going, you know what,
We've talked about that in the past. Were you doing 3D modeling before Star Citizen?
I was, but being in live action, you have to do both. You need to be able to 3D model starting points, but then you also have to shift gears and just be right at digital paint. So, but I find that the gaming work, that the 3D part of it is a bigger chunk. And so when you're forced to do a bigger chunk, then I think you grow that skill. So it's been it's been a growing process for me to go, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go back in and hit this model again. I'm gonna do it till it's right.
One of the questions that just came in the chat asks about what the second ship on the Kickstarter page. I don't have the Kickstarter page here, so I actually am not able to answer that question. But if somebody else can go to the Kickstarter page and identify what ship, what do you say here? What was the second ship pictured on the Kickstarter page? Kickstarter subsection, it's about the gameplay and your interactions with other. I can't see the page right now, so I can't tell you what the answer is, but maybe somebody else in chat can tell you. All right, so after the Freelancer, which is one of our 5 original concept ships, we started to expand out. Obviously, the project was taking off. We knew we wanted more than just those 5 ships to start with, and they tell you the Cutlass. Now, the Freelancer was the first ship in the Misc manufacturer, and we've got this concept of manufacturers. Now, what do they tell you? What can you remember about Drake when they say, okay, we're going to do a new manufacturer, it's going to be Drake? What are they telling you at this point?
So for me, the kickoff on this one was, this is going to be a pirate ship. That's the one element that I remember more than the other stuff. Like this is a ship that is getting usurped by people with pirate intentions, and that starting point for me was kind of like the moment of fun that, you want to find your happy place in the assignment and go, okay, it's pirate time. Let's kind of do something that looks a little evil, looks like it's nefarious, and I remember doing the back engines going, these are kind of a little bit like skulls, but Not, but maybe just enough to have fun with it.
I never thought about that.
And that was the start of this assignment. And I know that that it needed to be a cargo hold, but there needed to be a cargo aspect to it too. But it really had to have that kind of a rough and tumble pirate feel to it.
Now you actually you worked on later on. You would work on the variants, the red and the blue.
Right.
I think we've got some of the red and the blue variants just mixed in here. So this isn't chronologically appropriate here. But so when we come back later on and we say now we want to do the red and the blue, well, this is your chance to this is now your first chance to revisit an older ship and create variants. So what are you thinking here?
So then I think the conversation changed a little bit to, well, what if it is someone's using it as a medical ship, like an ambulance, or what what are the different roles that it can play? And then I kind of break out of that early idea of let's do the pirate ship and into a little bit more of, well, let's make it feel more utility, and also let's make it a little cleaner, and kind of give it a multi-role. And that's where this comes in.
I like the cockpit here.
Oh, thanks. So it kind of goes from R to utility.
Mm-hmm. So then after the Cutlass, you've now done an alien ship. You've introduced our alien aggressors. You've introduced the Misc style. You've introduced the Drake style, and the next ship. You actually get to build on your previous work. You get to do the Caterpillar,
right?
Which is also Drake. So now you don't have to start from absolutely nothing,
like from scratch
anymore. Yeah. So now you're working on the Caterpillar. So what was the brief on the Caterpillar that you can remember?
Okay, the Caterpillar.
Was it called the Caterpillar?
It was called the Caterpillar, and it needed to be like a long hauler, kind of a freight hauling ship. And for me, though, they had me at Caterpillar because that was the challenge. How are you going to make a ship that kind of evokes the idea of a caterpillar, and but isn't something that's sort of ridiculous? That's my design challenge. And
in these early drawings, you see a lot of Cutlass influence because
again,
for the first time you get to start off with something else. So it looks like the Cutlass with a bigger centerpiece here.
And this kind of sketch is me thinking as I'm drawing, like, hey, what if I put these on the side? What about that? Oh, bad idea. Maybe I can try it. And then how do I work in my core idea for this, which was, if we're going to do Caterpillar, let's do a long segmented shape, and put in, the caterpillar body.
Was that you, or was that given to you? Did they say?
That was me going, how do you say caterpillar in a spaceship?
and when you had to come back and you had to pitch to Chris like a long segmented ship?
I think that I kind of showed I let the sketches do the pitching, and kind of talked them through, well, maybe we can do repeated long segmenting to say caterpillar, but also do our best to make it, a viable, interesting ship in the universe.
I think our controller here is losing battery. So now we haven't seen a lot of interior work. Now, obviously, this is original Caterpillar stuff. This is back before we actually had to build it out and stuff like this. So, right here you're looking at a two floor interior, which would have been a first for Star Citizen. We hadn't introduced any multi-level ships at this point.
And this is me just kind of throwing it out, saying, hey, let me do a cutaway real quick and explain it.
You want to take my controller? You're taking my controller.
So I did this cutaway, and purely on speculation, like, hey, let me show you what I think the command crew pod looks like. The cargo. I did a cargo module, and that's pretty straightforward. But what if we open it up, and I'll just show you what I think is going on inside here. And that's what that was, and I live for that, by the way. A cutout for me is like Illustrator joy.
Do you ever get to work on any of those like visual dictionary books?
No, like what's inside and those. I haven't, but if given an opportunity on a project, I'm going to go to a cutaway if I can. Yeah.
So Caterpillar was definitely a ship that triggered some imaginations. Especially this one, you managed to incorporate the legs, the caterpillar legs.
So that's a second idea in there. I was like, okay, if you're going to call it a caterpillar, it's got to have multi-legs, right? And did that stay?
Not so much.
Okay.
Not so much.
We tried.
We're here with the very literal Jim Martin.
And this is an early one. I really like the styling that has happened, since doing these study models. I really think that the team here really kind of fleshed it out and made it look pretty awesome. Yeah. Teamwork.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's one of the cool things here. We were talking about this before we started the show, but it's the Drake style guide. It was really came into its own last year when the team here in LA had we're building out the Herald, we're building out the Caterpillar, and we're redoing the Cutlass. I know Elwin specifically went back to a lot of your old drawings. It's find some of the things that we lost, when we built the Cutlass out for the very first time and stuff. Let's go back to the concept and find these personal touches, these things that made it seem a little more lived in and personality. We didn't keep the caterpillar legs, but
that's really cool to hear, because it's a collaboration. It is a complete collaboration. In fact, no one is an island. You need someone to come in and go and look at it with fresh eyes, and then plus it.
Gotcha. So after the Caterpillar, you're now becoming the Drake person at this point. You're becoming the Drake person at this point, and this people might not recognize. This was some of the earlier images of the Herald.
Yep.
So what can you remember about this? What was the brief here?
I think the brief was the Herald. It's small, it's compact, it's fast, and it gets in, it transmits and receives, information, and it gets out. So to me, that translates to big engines and a cockpit. Keep it really streamlined, make it look fast and compact, and keep it simple. So first pass was trying those ideas and what kind of configuration seems like it's gonna land.
I see.
There's some kind of kooky stuff here that
there's some stuff here. I went forward here. All right, so it wasn't the batteries. It's just a lame clicker. The one in the upper left there reminds me of like the snow speeder from Empire Strikes Back, just with killer engine in the back.
And these are really their thumbnails. It's like draw it, and then move on. So cutaway again, right?
Cutaways.
Yeah.
I want to go back to this one here.
Yeah.
We didn't number these. So if we're going around clockwise, the third one, the one that actually looks closest to what we ended up using, and then the one directly southwest of it with the big Hawk engines, like between the two of these, it reminds me of the Gunstar from the last Starfighter.
Right.
I remember when I first started seeing this stuff come in, and I just kept getting a last Starfighter vibe from it, and I think it's just because of the tapered down nose thing in the version that we did. It's bigger in the back, smaller in the front. But it was when I saw the other one, I saw that you were exploring the one. I'm like, just put two more in the bottom,
and then you've got it.
You could have snuck a Gunstar into the game, Jim. You could have stuck a Gunstar into the game.
See that? I think so. For me, right? Those are my influences, whether I know it or not. Those were the things that, like a Ralph McQuarrie painting from Empire Strikes Back, like those were, were just relished when I was a kid, drawing what was cool. And I guess that kind of makes me old school when it comes to ship design, but it's a good mix. That's what I like about this game. Yep. It's kind of a mix of everything.
Now let me ask you a question based on something I just said here. When an idiot like me sits there and says, "Hey, that reminds me of the Gunstar and whatnot," is that? How do you take that? You take that, and we're friends. You can be honest with me. I mean, is that insulting?
I will tell you absolutely honestly that it is not insulting in any way. In fact, it's a compliment to think that I was a kid watching that movie back when it came out in like '84. '84. And to sit here now and have someone go, "Hey, that's kind of like the," then I think that connects me to that project. Okay. And when you're a kid watching that movie, you can only dream that one day you'll be able to work in entertainment and get to do spaceships for a living. Yeah. And then to be here now and to be talking about that stuff, it's pure, it's nothing but good.
Yeah, I didn't want it to seem like, man, you have no original ideas in your head. It's like, everybody can turn everything into something, you twist everything. But I meant it as a, you took it exactly as I meant it.
I took it exactly as meant.
It's a compliment. It's a shared inspiration, and you tap into those things that inspire all of us and make us excited about this stuff.
It's kind of like when you're on a movie and they say, okay, you're doing the space helmet, but we need to do something that we've never seen before, but it should have a faceplate so we can see the actor, some kind of covering at the top, and then 2 ear sides that feel like they are receiving audio. And you go, okay, you just described a space helmet. So
how
right?
I just
so we're, of course, a ship design is it's gonna feel like this or it's gonna feel like that. That what you want to do is you want to really put your design love into it and all your inspiration from all your sources and try to do your best work. Yeah.
All right. So now you've done your third Drake ship,
right?
And they come back to you and say, "Jim, we got another ship for you." At this point, you're like, "Are you hoping it's something different? Are you hoping for a fourth Drake ship, or are you hoping for something different at this point?"
I'm hoping for something different.
Okay. And they come back to you and say, "We want you to go back to Misc."
Okay.
Now you started Misc, and this is now the Hull series. Now, do you remember what the brief for the Hull was? Because the Hull is pretty different from any other ship we had before, and we haven't had a ship like it since.
Right.
What was the brief on the Hull that you can remember?
So that was an interesting brief because that was the first time that the team here gave me a model as a starting point. And they had mocked up like a blocked-in idea of how this ship was going to carry like cargo pods. And I remember seeing that going, okay, well, we're a little bit deeper into the assignment. We're not going to fumble at the beginning. We're just going to get right to it. And it still had that hurdle to get over, which was, well, how is that actually going to work? How are we going to do, attached pods to a ship? And we tried some different things.
So when it came to you, they had already decided that the cargo was going to sit on the outside of the thing. And did they know that it was going to collapse and expand, or?
No, that was going to come later. Okay. As we were trying to come up with kind of an engineered logic of how it was going to be able to hold cargo, and what it was going to look like when it was empty and what it would look like fully loaded. And that's when we came across this idea. Maybe we're talking about just this big kind of ship rigging boom that can, umbrella open and close depending on how much cargo you need to load.
Now, when the assignment came to you, was it just the Hull C? Or did they bring it to you and say, it's actually 5 ships?
It's 5 ships.
It's 5 ships.
Which meant, I spent a lot of time working out the cockpit to try to figure out, well, is it going to be one cockpit area for for all of the ships. You know, what are the conditions going to be? And we kind of went through the idea of, yeah, this is an earlier idea when it was not going to telescope. It was always going to stay a locked condition. Mm-hmm. And then we said, well, maybe the front can fly away from the cargo and then return. And this was the second idea.
Yeah, this is the collapse. Got some like armored neck going on there.
Yeah, we didn't follow through on that. But what you gonna do? Here's a crazy loaded one, which for me is the illustration fun, because you know you can really get a good render when you take the time to work out all of the cargo containers.
Well, we actually started building out the ship in the game last year. Most of the final art is actually done for the Hull C at the moment. They ran into the technical challenge. Well, it shouldn't ran in. We caught up to the technical challenge we knew we were going to have from the very beginning, which is the collapsing. The collapsing system. So it's on hold at the moment right now. They actually have a pretty good idea how it's gonna happen, but in the game universe as we have it right now, this is too much cargo. With the economy that we have in the precision universe, like if we introduced a Hull C right now, it would just destabilize everything. So like we don't need it right this minute anyway, and we know that's going to take some extra time to figure out the collapse anyway. Right. So they've kind of just put a pin on it right now, and they're working on other things. But most of it's been modeled out. If you want, when we're done here, I could probably have somebody pull it up. You can see it actually in engine.
Yeah, I would love to see how you guys plussed it, because that's a kind of a treat for me too, to see like, okay, someone went over it and did all the necessary kind of frosting to really bring it into the world.
Yeah, because they actually have the collapse. The animation is there. It's the technical part of actually making it work in the game. So you can actually see it. We'll do a private little ship shape. We won't bring these people. Just kidding. Yeah. All right, what else we got?
Landed on a lonely moon, right?
Very lonely moon.
And then
skipping ahead.
Yeah, this is the kind of like reward when you're done doing the ship design, and it's all kind of tied together. And then you put it in a couple of environments, and you go, what would it look like in the world? And you kind of give yourself a reward at the end of the design assignment. It's my reward. Do a fun painting. Land it.
So after the whole series, they keep you going on the Misc, and they bring you the Endeavor.
Right.
Now, the Endeavor, one of the short of like the Idris and the Javelin, one of the largest ships we've ever scoped out in the game. Tell me about this.
Okay, this was a lot of figuring out.
Yes.
Because it was about doing a ship design, and also figuring out what are the modules that are going to fit in between, and how do they plug in, you know, what are the variants, and how do you make it look good for each ship, and or I should say, how do you make each component look good in each configuration?
Yes.
And these are a little crazy with the solar panels, but I think about midway through, we kind of got into the place we wanted to be with this.
I remember this one specifically. This was one of the first times I got to be involved on this end with the design and the ship and whatnot. This was one of Ben Lesnick's babies and whatnot.
Okay.
So
yeah, Ben was invested in this one.
Yeah.
Definitely. I like the hospital module myself. You know. Though, do you need a hospital module in the game?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
People are going to get injured.
Oh yeah. No, we've got medical gameplay coming. We've got medical gameplay coming, and well, I was about to give you guys a little hint on something, and I'm like, no. But you'll be seeing more. You'll be seeing more about medical stuff later this year. Like that. So
hydroponic pods.
This is the silent running influence. That was the name of that movie, right? Was it Silent Running?
Silent Running. Yeah.
It was Silent Runner or Silent Running? It was
Silent Running.
I've only seen the movie
Bruce
once.
Dern.
Yep.
Yep.
I remember.
Quick cockpit concept.
Which is an expanded, you know, from the freelancer, or, you know, from the aesthetic that we see in the freelance is a much more expanded bridge here.
And that's so early that, you know, that's me just kind of giving you guys a starting point. I know you have, you know, you have a lot of assets already available at the time, so you can plug in the seats that you like, that kind of thing. The bear, yeah, there she is.
Starting to take shapes there.
Yeah, I like that one on the right.
Yeah, what I like here is that as you started coming along, the entire there was a lot of thought that the front part would again detach, wasn't there?
Right. I think I did a couple illos of it flying away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have little travel pods that you can leave the ship. I don't think that lasted. Huh?
Yeah, I don't think the travel pods lasted.
Here's a combo of just showing a layout of how modules can fit onto the ship.
Now, when they sit there, when they tell you that they want it modular and they want it to be able to go in multiple configurations, does that excite you or frustrate you? Does that like just pick an order and they go for harder, and then you have to design, so you have to design a thing so that this works in the front or it works in the back or it works in the middle?
Yeah, I think when you get an assignment like that, your first reaction is, all right, you have trepidation. You're like, okay,
let me adjust my quote.
Yeah, let me expand the net and let me cast a broad net and just see what lands. You know, because you could spend too much time on stuff that gets abandoned. So, like a pass like this is showing, I'll give you silhouettes. You know, we'll talk about how the volumes feel, and then get them to kind of to buy off on some things. Yeah.
And then the Particle Accelerator.
The boom idea that didn't take.
I liked the boom idea though. I was a big proponent of the booms.
We could almost do a sci-fi TV show based on this. You know, like the science vessel.
You know,
Huckabee.
No science vessel would ever be called the Huckabee.
You don't know that.
No Huckabee was ever a good science student, unfortunately. So and there's your medical base.
Yeah. Yeah, this was probably the most modeling heavy, I think, of the assignments.
And there's the front piece breaking off.
We got to get out of here. Yeah,
a lot.
And then
they did so much artwork for the Endeavor. It was
it was a pretty beefy assignment, you know, and.
Right, and then after the Endeavor, we bring you back to the world of Drake, and to your most recent ship that you've done for Star Citizen, the Buccaneer.
Right.
Now, what was the brief on the Buccaneer?
The Buccaneer is like all of the Drake stuff. It is definitely utility. It's like a tough, functional design, and it needs to tie into the other ship designs. But this is going to be a compact, all-purpose fighter. And for me, this was one of my favorite assignments on the game, because, you know, it kind of again channels my inner Macquarie, and you get a chance to do a Snub Fighter. So, did a silhouette pass, some quick sketches, tried to put some configurations together. Started off with a double two-man cockpit. That's right. Which was never going to fly, but that was me getting a little ahead of myself.
I do remember that. I do remember that we started to see two-man cockpits come in, and I remember going back to design brief, and I'm like, did we type in? Well, because you wouldn't have known this at the time, but around this time, we had just gone through this whole thing with the car to all, where it was supposed to be it was originally a two-man cockpit, and then design had changed it to a one-man cockpit, but the art had been two-man. So like that. So now we started seeing these come in with two-man cockpits, and I'm going back through the design stuff, and I'm like, okay, did I type something wrong here? and whatnot. I was like, no, it was just Jim being.
Jim got a little ambitious.
Jim got a little ambitious.
He's thinking F-14. And yeah, this assignment is the fun fighter.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to get the fun fighter assignment.
And it flies great in the game because this was fast tracked and put in the game pretty quickly.
Yeah. I also like this game has some great fighters in it. You know, the Squadron 42 fighters are awesome, and this is kind of just its own kind of fun fighter idea that is it's not the coolest one. It's the tough, old, faithful, reliable one.
Get some images there.
Drake.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And guess what, Jim?
What's that?
Your hour's up.
It went so quickly.
I know. See, and you were so nervous. Like, how are we gonna fill an hour?
Can I really talk for an hour?
It's done. Look, it's 12:58.
You know what? I just want to say though, thanks for having me, and you know, taking the time to talk about this stuff. It was really great working on this project.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. You know, guys.
I hope I wasn't boring, and I hope that that I enlightened, you know, the community about the design process a little bit.
I think it's, you know, we do a variety of different shows here at Star Citizen. You know, last year we did the happy hour broadcast on Fridays, and there were 5 different formats within the happy hours and whatnot. Usually Reverse the Verse is we take questions from the community, and it's always about, you know, well, how is this going to work, and how is this going to work, and whatnot. But I thought every once in a while we can change gears. We can do something different. We can just take a look into our past.
Yeah.
You know, take a look into our past and have a chat with somebody who's been here from the beginning.
I'm just a kid who grew up drawing spaceships for fun, and to get to do it for a living is like a dream come true. I'm a lucky guy.
You know, anytime you're around here, anytime you're welcome here, anytime, man.
Thanks, sir.
Sorry, I was making it through the whole show. I was doing so good without the coughing, wasn't I, for the whole show? All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to cough for a couple minutes, and then we'll be right back here with the wrap-up. See you in a bit, everybody.
Okay, thank you.